I'm sitting here with Bruce, and you've been doing photography for a wee while now.
Probably 8-10 years.
Okay. Now, you're telling me before the camera you first started doing photography, not just taking holiday snaps, but actually doing photography as a hobby, a recognisable thing. Was that about the point you called yourself a photographer, or were you?
No, it was a little bit after that, but my first digital camera was the Sony with the 3.5-inch disc in it. For the life of me, I can't think of the model number, and it's very archaic by today's standard.
Most people watching this probably won't have a clue what you're talking about anyway.
Probably not.
Cool. Now, excuse me, what would have been your next, I suppose, significant camera, do you think?
The Fuji Finepix S5000. I did the 5000, then there was another one in between that, then the 9000 and the S9500 before I moved into DSLRs.
Okay. When was your first DSLR?
That would have been about 2012, I think. Yeah.
Okay. What was it?
It was the Canon 550D with a Tamron 18 to 270 lens.
So that would have been roughly when you went down the Canon rabbit hole.
I saw the bright side and went Canon, yes.
Because I've only ever seen you use Canons. But, okay. Now, just so that people have a bit of an idea, you do mostly landscapes, don't you?
Landscapes and wildlife are my preferred.
Okay.
Yes.
Where in this camera purchasing / lens purchasing period did you actually start making your decision based on the type of photography that you were doing? Because I know for some people, they get a camera, they shoot stuff, and it's some time after that before they start buying stuff for a specific type of photography.
Probably my first trip to America, where I wanted to go over there and take photos, and there's such a huge variation of landscapes over there. I had set locations in mind that I wanted to go, and that was when landscapes came to the top of my interest.
Okay. And can you tell us a lens that comes to mind that you go, okay, I'm getting that because I'm doing landscapes?
I started with the 24-105, the Canon 24-105, because at 24 on a full frame body, you get a fairly reasonable sort of a width of what's aim, and that lens gives a good walkabout range for doing a lot of things. Then I went to the 16-35 because for the grander scale of things with bigger landscapes, the extra width you get from 16 to 24 is quite an immense difference.
So would it be safe to say that if someone said to you, oh, what lens should I get with my new camera, and they're new to photography, would it be safe to say that 24 to 105 on a full frame would be a good starting point?
It's a good walkabout lens. You can do landscapes with it. You can do people photography with it, and you can do quite a bit with it. And it's a very versatile lens, I find.
Yeah, it's like with my new camera. It was the first lens I got for my new camera, and it was the same with my previous one before that. Was a 105. Okay, the crop sensor was a bit of a different story, but with this one it was a 24 to 105 because it got as wide as I could see I really needed to start with, and it got me far enough out to cover most of what I would need. Yes, I went crazy getting a bunch of other stuff, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, I've been down the same track. One of the other things I find, the 16mm, I've been trying to do a little bit of astrophotography as well, and the 16mm goes down to an aperture of 2.8,
okay,
which brings in a lot more light and also gives you a wider viewpoint of the stars
The
at
sky,
night time.
yeah. Because that is quite a, yeah, I've noticed most astrophotography is quite wide. Encompasses quite a large area.
With the bigger astrophotography, you often now panoramics and stitching together two horizontal rows, 8 or 10 images across and 2 or 3 high.
And I see some fantastic stuff done by people that just, their dedication to astrophotography is probably a bit past what I'm prepared to do, actually. But Michael said he was going to take me out. We're going to go out and do some astrophotography, so we'll see.
It's a lot of fun, and you get a lot of pride out of getting a good image.
If you couldn't do landscape and wildlife and nature and that sort of thing, what would you do photography wise?
I don't know, a little bit of macro, flowers, small stuff like that. People photography I've got no interest of taking photos of weddings or people or street scenes and that sort of stuff generally.
So you wouldn't necessarily knock yourself out to get into architectural photography or anything like that?
No.
Okay. And you enjoy the area you like doing?
Yeah, I mean, landscape photography is not just the big scene.
Yeah.
I've taken images that, that are only 3 or 4 millimeters across and got beautiful shots out of them. You don't need to have the big scene to get a good landscape.
So when it comes to the creative aspect, the ideas part of it, people might say, oh, but doesn't that narrow you down to just one aspect, landscape photography for instance? But what are you looking for when you're wanting to get inspiration to do a photograph? Is it a scene you've seen that inspires you, or do you go out and actually look for the photograph?
I go out and look for the photograph. Some scenes inspire me, some places I will see and I'll deliberately go back to photograph them, particularly if it hasn't been done that way. I did one just recently of the Turiwa Bridge in New Plymouth.
Oh, okay.
I saw that in the late afternoon and I thought that would be a neat image to photograph it at night time with a torch, white painted.
Oh, okay.
So I deliberately went back 3 months later and I come up with an image that I've never seen anyone else do. And it's quite inspiring.
So would you support the concept of experimentation as much as possible?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Look, experimentation is learning.
Yeah.
And changing, and you're never going to get anywhere unless you're prepared to change and learn. And you're always learning in photography.
How many photographs do you reckon you took before you came to a photograph that you go, oh, I like that?
It varies on every image, every situation. The Turiwa Bridge, using the classic example I probably took 30 images before I got the image
That you wanted?
that I wanted. I felt up to a standard that I liked.
So you were prepared to start with what you were pretty sure was correct, but give it a crack and see if it was correct, and then keep going until you got to where you wanted.
Each image that I took, I looked at it in the viewfinder and said, that's nice, but this needs improving, or that needs improving. And that's the same with all scenes, all photography. Very few people can go out and take one photo and get a good scene first time.
Yeah. So now for other photographers who are reasonably new to photography or wanting to get better than where they are, what would you suggest to say, I don't know, top 3 things to consider when you're doing photography that covers any sort of photography whatsoever, if you're wanting to get better at it?
The first thing I would recommend is get the best lens you can afford. The lens is more important than the camera. Get a good lens, then get your camera and a good, steady, decent tripod. Those are the 3 majors in my mind.
Okay, cool. Oh, well, thanks very much for that. Where do you think photography is going to be taking you?
I don't know. I've just had an image selected to represent New Zealand, in an overseas competition between
Okay.
New Zealand, Australia, South Africa and Canada called the Four Nations, and to date that's probably got to be my proudest moment
Cool.
in photography representing the country.
The other thing you mentioned is you went to, I know you went to South Africa for the with the group a while back, was it a year back or something like that, and you mentioned you're going to be doing that again. Do you think you would be doing some of the travelling you've done? Because you said you've got South Africa, you've got America twice from memory.
I've done America twice. I'm back again this year with America and Canada.
Do you think you would be doing that travel if it hadn't been for photography?
Not to the extent, no. Photography is certainly driven me to travel,
Okay,
and I'm enjoying it and I'm loving it.
and exploring.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And just seeing things. I really enjoy going on the net now and seeing an image and saying, I know where that is. I've been there.
Yeah. Cool. Oh, thanks very much. And yeah, that's it. And, thanks for the time of sitting here and talking to us about photography.
Not a problem.
Have fun.
That part I attend to.